Here's a question. Do Reader's Digest still release records? In fact, does Reader's Digest still exist? I haven't heard of anything for a long time, but curiously, I've somehow managed to go through the whole of my adult life without ever ending up on the Reader's Digest mailing list, which it seemed everybody in the world was part of at one point. My parents used to get relentless mail offers from the company that ranged from the usual "you are now in the final stages to win this huge cash prize" claims that never quite resulted in a huge or even tiny cash prize, to endless promotions for books and records, some of which they fell for, of course, because in the 1970s mail order offers were still much more novel than they are now. We ended up with several books that would sit on our bookshelves unread for decades. A set of encyclopedias that were bought as an educational investment for me, apparently, though of course nothing becomes out of date more quickly than yesterday's knowledge. A book about weird phenomena that I naturally pored over intently, even though it was, to all intents and purposes, unreadably dry and boring. And other volumes of DIY and household tips that I can't recall ever being consulted. All probably seemed like a good idea at the time, thanks to the relentlessly breathless and colourful brochures that insisted that you couldn't live without a hardcover guide to different sorts of wildflowers. My parents also bought box sets of vinyl records. There was Tunes of Glory, a seemingly excessive collection of military band music that, to the best of my knowledge, was only played once. The household occasions that demanded military marching music were somewhat limited. And there were a few country music collections. I think it's fair to say that had these collections simply existed in record shops or branches of Woolworth, then they would never have been bought. But there's something in the whole hard sell of the brochures that worked. And not just for my parents. Charity shops across the country are littered with Reader's Digest collections, just as their book sections often heave with those compendiums of edited novels that, of course, also sat on my parents' shelves. What was it about these music collections, often somewhat niche in appeal, that suckered people in? The glossy leaflets, the idea that by making a purchase you were guaranteed entry in a draw that you never seemed to win, the sheer relentlessness of the promotions? Or was it the free demonstration Flexi disc? A new box set would often be promoted with a 7-inch 33 1/3 Flexi disc, sometimes coloured gold just to emphasise the golden greats nature of the collection, and which offered samples of the musical delights awaiting you with a hard sell voiceover from a famous DJ or celebrity who had no shame when it came to making a quick buck.
Hi there, I'm Brian Matthew, introducing you to 2 decades of sensational chart-busting hits. Remember these?
Oh, Carol, I am but a fool. Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Needles and pins, because of all my pride. La, 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 la.
Hello, I'm Joel Krager, and I'm here to tell you about a wonderful new Reader's Digest record album called Background Moods, music for your every mood. It's a pity that I don't know what your mood is right now, because I could play something for you that would fit it perfectly.
Hi, this is Michael Reed, inviting you to preview some of the latest and greatest hits of the past 3 years in a superb new Reader's Digest collection called Super Gold. In this one album, you'll find no fewer than 84 recent chart-topping hits, and all by the original artists. For openers, let's try these solid gold #1 hits.
Words don't come easy to me. Come on, baby. Oh, I swear. Oh, come on, let's. Now I gotta cut loose. Kick off the Sunday shoes. I am the tigers, the thrill of the fight.
Well, that should give you some idea of the range of superstars you can expect to hear in this fantastic new album.
No expense was spared in telling you just how great this collection was and what a fine investment it would be. There was literally no way that these collections would not become treasured heirlooms, passed down through the generations, and guaranteeing a fine return on your investment should you ever be foolish enough to part with them. Clearly, the promo discs did their job, even though by the time they'd negotiated the postal delivery system and been stuffed, folded in half quite often through your letterbox, a fair number were rendered unplayable. Flexi discs were not the most reliable format at the best of times, their flimsy design clashing rather badly with the way that they were usually delivered to the customer, i.e. taped to the front of a magazine that had not been treated with a great deal of care by Mr. Newsagent, as comics and magazines invariably called the retailer. A crease, a fold, or a scuff might be enough to do for one of these discs, and even if they arrived in pristine condition, your record player might not be up to the job of playing them without skipping and sliding. The grooves were often too thin for many players, and the record would rarely sit flat, so a certain warping of the sound was another occupational hazard. A coin was recommended to give the disc weight, though if memory serves, this was still a hit-and-miss solution. While the readers of Flexi Pop and other music titles quickly learned to give the disc a quick once-over before buying, and figured out how to weight the disc and record arm properly, the people receiving Reader's Digest discs in the post had no such luck. Yet enough must have worked their magic to make them worthwhile. And people did play them, often going to great lengths to get the disc to produce something that vaguely equated to a decent sound. You have to remember that most record collections were not huge, and so anything on disc that arrived for free out of the blue was going to be given a spin. The sound was always inferior, but that didn't put people off. They got to hear just enough to whet the appetite, and if I recall correctly, the promotional guff made it clear that the free sampler would have an inferior sound to the actual record. Something that in retrospect seems ridiculous, because surely part of the hard sell was the quality of the recordings. I'm guessing that those small record collections and the relatively low cost of the box sets, at least if you calculated price per disc compared to what was on sale in the shops, made these instant collections somewhat appealing. At the height of the Reader's Digest record offer, compilation albums by original artists were still not that often, and if Reader's Digest records did die out, then I'm guessing it was because first Ronco and K-Tel and then the major labels moved in on their territory with collections that you didn't need to send away for. In any case, the promotional flexi discs presumably came to an end at some point in the 1980s as people swapped their record decks for CD players and the collections moved from vinyl to CD and cassette. Notably, the last Reader's Digest collections owned by my parents are on tape. By their nature, the flexis were ephemeral objects and not designed to keep. Indeed, why would anyone consider them to be of any value when they didn't even contain a complete musical number? I'm not suggesting that they have any worth now, but of course they're part of our cultural history and there really should be an archive of them somewhere. No cultural object is completely worthless, and even the most throwaway items tell us something about who we were and the world we lived in. Anyway, I'm curious to hear about your experiences with Reader's Digest. Do you own a vast collection of effectively worthless box sets? More to the point, did you ever win a huge cash prize? I'm guessing that someone somewhere did. Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.